Our storyteller this month is Omar Tarango, a native of El Paso, Texas, who moved to Tucson about 5 years ago. Tarango is a father and grandfather who has been an athlete, a musician, an employee at the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, and a stockbroker, among other fields. About 20 years ago, he left the corporate world to pursue a dream that many of us can only dream about traveling the world on cruise ships where he gets paid to entertain different audiences. And while it may sound exotic and glamorous, Tarango points out that his life at sea is no walk in the park.
The name of my story is The Emptiest Room on the Biggest Ship. I remember the exact moment the Grand Princess pulled away from Puerto Vallarta. The sun was hanging low over the Mexican coastline, turning the water into molten gold. The shoreline got smaller behind us, and I stood at the railing pretending I was calm. Inside, I was terrified because I wasn't just taking my first cruise, I was the cruise ship comedian. And the truth was, I had gotten the job the same way a lot of comedians get their jobs, with confidence, a prayer, and a lie. It started weeks earlier after I wrote an email to a talent agency. They responded, "We like you. You do have two separate 45-minute comedy sets, right? Two full shows." I stared at the screen. Now, I'd been doing stand up comedy for nearly 15 years at that time. And any comedian will tell you 45 good minutes is a lifetime. I had one solid set, my A material, and the other 45 minutes, that was a graveyard of old jokes I had thrown away for a reason. But the agent had asked, and it didn't sound like a question, it sounded like a requirement. So I typed back, "Of course I have two 45-minute sets, separate ones. I mean, what kind of comedian would I be if I didn't?" I was like a man applying to fly a plane because I can fly one on my Xbox. Then they replied, "Great! Can you send us video samples of both sets?" What? I didn't have that. So I did what any desperate performer would do. I sent them two different videos. Same material, just rearranged. Different nights, different order. Heck, I was wearing different clothes. And I prayed they wouldn't actually watch them. And a few days later, the contract came through, and suddenly I was boarding the Grand Princess. Now, here's what you have to understand. This was 2021, right after COVID. Cruise ships were back technically, but the Grand Princess held 3,000 passengers, and we had 150. The ship felt like a floating luxury ghost town. The hallways echoed, the lounges were empty. It was like performing comedy inside an abandoned hotel. My first show was in the main lounge, a massive room built for crowds, spotlights, velvet seats, big stage energy. I walked out and saw about 20 people scattered across the room like they got lost. 20 in a room meant for 300. I took a breath and I told myself, just do what you know. This was a set I'd built over years, and it went fine. Not explosive, not roaring, but fine. The laughter came in small waves, more ripples than thunder, but I survived. When I walked off stage, I thought, okay, Omar, you can do this. Then came the second show, the one I had been dreading, my second 45-minute set from the nostalgia file. The set didn't really exist. That night, the audience was even smaller, maybe 15 people. And backstage, I held the microphone like it weighed 50 pounds. I walked out there anyway, and within minutes, I knew this was a disaster. The old material was dead on arrival. Jokes I'd retired years ago came back like bad ghosts. And the silence was heavy. Not just quiet, judgment quiet. And then I saw her, front row, a woman leaning back, perfectly still, her head tilted slightly to one side, her arms folded in her lap like she'd been placed there. For a split second, an honest, terrifying split second, I thought, oh my God, she's dead. I mean, the room was already so quiet. And there she was, unmoving under the stage lights, looking like a wax figure from Disneyland, in the front row of my career's worst moment. I stopped mid-joke. I stared. The audience stared back. Nobody moved. And my brain went completely off the rails. Is this how bad I am? I'm not just bombing. I'm killing, but not in the way a comedian wants to kill. Then she let out a slow breath, a soft little sigh, And I realized, no, she wasn't dead. This woman was asleep, fully asleep, front row during my set. And somehow that was worse. I started sweating, my mind raced, and I did the one thing that I was told not to do. I repeated jokes from my first show because I was drowning. Afterward, I stumbled off stage and headed toward the sound booth. The technician, a Filipino guy with tired eyes, he looked at me and very judgingly he said, "You weren't supposed to repeat jokes." I sighed. I know. Man, I wanted to jump ship and have someone yell, "Man overboard!" That night in my cabin, staring at the ceiling, I honestly thought, man, I'm ready to quit. After 15 years of comedy, I'm ready to call it quits. I die on a cruise ship in front of 14 people and one sleeping lady. A day later, I met the cruise ship magician. He went by the name of Trig. We were standing in a long line, immigration, customs, something like that. Just two entertainers waiting our turn. And he asked casually, "How's it going?" I could do nothing but just laugh bitterly. And I said, "I think I'm about to quit comedy." And he said, "Why?" So I told him who I was and what had happened. He listened very carefully, then said something so simple it felt like an actual magic trick. "Why are you doing one good show and one bad show?" I blinked and he continued, "Mix them. Blend your best material into both shows. That way you're never stranded up there and you can build the rest slowly." Man, it was obvious. It was actually smart and it saved me. The next cruise turnaround, new passengers boarded, fresh audience, clean slate. I did exactly that. I mixed the strong jokes into both sets, the second show in a smaller lounge. Something happened. People laughed. Real laughter. The kind that fills a room. And when I finished, I looked up. The magician was in the audience. He looked back at me. He didn't cheer. He didn't shout. He just gave me a little quiet golf clap. And I watched his lips form one word. Bravo. Not 2 months ago, I stood on that very same ship again. Same ocean, same lounge, but now a packed room, a real crowd. My show went extremely well. Even the second one went really well. And in fact, in that second one, I finished with my biggest closer. Huge laughs, applause. Then I walked off after I was saying, "Thank you, my name is Omar." I left the stage. I never just hang around on stage. If they're laughing and clapping at my closer, I get the heck out of Dodge. The video technician backstage gave me a fist bump, and that looked like even he enjoyed the show. Then I heard the host call my name. I was thinking, was he calling me back out? And the video tech, another Filipino, said, "Yeah, go out there." I went back out and saw the audience standing. They were still laughing. They were still clapping. And for the first time in 20 years of comedy, I got a standing ovation, a curtain call. People were on their feet, and I realized, man, that sleeping woman, that empty ghost ship, that worst night, it wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Because sometimes the sea doesn't break you. Sometimes it teaches you how to stay afloat.
Tarango says his cruise ship accommodations can vary widely. Some of the upper scale companies have given him a nice room with a balcony and an upper deck. Others assign him a small crew room without any windows, where keeping track of time can be difficult unless you're constantly checking your phone or computer. Tarango has a master's degree in marketing, so when he's on dry land in Tucson, he runs a freelance marketing company and works as a substitute teacher. It hasn't been easy, but he is still very happy to be a stand-up comic who gets paid for his talent. To learn more about Omar Tarango, we'll have a link on our website. For Arizona Spotlight, I'm Tony Paniagua.
Thank you for listening to Arizona Spotlight.